First Contact Protocols. High Commander Nexus of the Viraxian Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, studying the holographic display of the Sol system with barely concealed disdain. The primitive radio signals that had first drawn their attention to this backwater region of space continued to pulse weakly across the display, a testament to humanity's technological inferiority. Their energy signatures are barely registering on our scanners, his chief science officer, Valrine, reported. Their most advanced vessels use primitive chemical propulsion, and their orbital habitats are practically defenseless. It's remarkable they managed to establish colonies at all. Nexus's crystalline exoskeleton shifted colors, displaying his amusement. The Viraxians had spent centuries perfecting their biomechanical enhancement technology, evolving far beyond their original organic forms. Looking at the crude metal satellites orbiting Earth, he felt like an advanced predator watching prey that didn't even know it was being hunted. And their colonies? He asked, expanding the hologram to show the dozen worlds humanity had somehow managed to settle. Even more primitive, High Commander. Basic dome structures, minimal orbital defenses. Their most advanced weapons appear to be kinetic railguns. Honestly, I'm surprised they haven't destroyed themselves yet. Dr. Elena Santos, Earth's Director of Xenological Studies, watched the massive Viraxian ships appear in orbit with a carefully manufactured expression of awe and fear. Inside her mind, quantum-enhanced neural implants were already running combat simulations and transmitting data through subspace channels that the Viraxians' advanced sensors couldn't even detect. "They're scanning us with standard EM arrays," she subvocalized, the words being instantly transmitted to Earth's true command center, buried 20 kilometers beneath the Mariana Trench. Their technology is exactly as our deep space probes indicated, biomechanical enhancement with minimal understanding of quantum mechanics. "Maintain protocol," came the response directly to her neural link. "Let them think they found another easy conquest. Operation Sleeping Giant remains in effect." Elena straightened her simple business suit and prepared to play her role as a frightened representative of a primitive species. The holographic projectors hidden throughout the city were already activating, making Earth's technology appear even more rudimentary than the carefully maintained facade they'd shown the galaxy for the past century. The Viraxian ship's transport beam was almost crude compared to Earth's quantum tunneling technology, but Elena made sure to stumble as it deposited her on their bridge, playing up her disorientation. "Welcome, human," High Commander Nexus' translated voice boomed through the chamber. "Your species has drawn our attention with your primitive attempts at space travel. The Viraxian Empire has decided to accelerate your development." Elena allowed her voice to tremble slightly. We are honored by your presence, High Commander. Humanity is still young among the stars. We have so much to learn." The Viraxian's crystalline form shifted to a deep blue of satisfaction. These humans would make perfect worker drones once properly enhanced with basic Viraxian technology. Their colonies would provide excellent resource extraction points for the Empire. "Your species will benefit greatly from our guidance," he declared. "We require only your complete submission and the transfer of all colonial resources to Imperial control. Resist, and we will be forced to demonstrate our technological superiority in less pleasant ways." Elena lowered her eyes submissively, while her quantum-enhanced mind calculated exactly how long it would take Earth's stored antimatter warheads to completely destroy the Viraxian fleet if needed. "Please," she whispered, "we'll need time to inform our colonies and prepare our people." "You have one planetary rotation," Nexus declared magnanimously. "Use it wisely." Back on Earth, Elena's neural recording of the encounter was being analyzed by the planet's true rulers, the Strategic Intelligence Council. For over 100 years, they had maintained humanity's greatest deception, hiding their quantum technological revolution behind a carefully crafted facade of primitive development. "The Viraxians are proceeding exactly as predicted," Elena reported to the assembled council. "They see exactly what we want them to see, a primitive species barely capable of interplanetary travel. Council leader Zhang nodded, his ancient eyes holding centuries of accumulated knowledge thanks to quantum life extension technology that the rest of the galaxy thought impossible. And their ships, exactly as our probes reported, they're still using basic particle shields. They haven't even discovered basic quantum field manipulation. They're dealing with primitive humans who can barely manage fusion power. If they follow the standard Imperial conquest protocols, they'll hit our colonies first, Elena finished, trying to force our submission by threatening our most vulnerable settlements. Indeed, Zhang's smile grew wider. They have no idea that every single human colony is a carefully constructed trap, containing more firepower than their entire fleet. After all, we're better to hide our most advanced weapons than in settlements that appear defenseless. Helena felt a moment of pity for the Viraxians. They thought they were the hunters, never realizing they were about to attack settlements defended by weapons that could tear apart the fabric of space itself. High Commander Nexus gave his fleet the order to begin preparation for orbital bombardment, never suspecting that he was about to learn why humanity had chosen to hide its true nature from the galaxy. Sometimes, appearing weak was the strongest strategy of all. The art of deception. Captain Sarah Chen of New Eden Colony watched the Viraxian warships descend through the atmosphere with practiced calm. Through the colony's supposedly primitive observation dome, their crystalline hulls caught the light of the binary star system, creating rainbow refractions across the settlement's solar collection arrays. They're broadcasting their demands again, her communications officer reported, struggling to hide a smile. They're giving us 1 hour to evacuate before they begin dismantling our primitive infrastructure. Sarah took a sip from her coffee mug, studying the tactical display hidden behind the appearance of a simple weather monitoring station. The Viraxians had positioned their ships exactly where the colony's defense grid had predicted. Their tactical algorithms were almost painfully predictable. "How many ships?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. 15 capital ships, plus support craft. They seem to think it's overkill for a defenseless mining colony. The communications officer's grin widened. "Should I remind them that we're technically protected under the Sol Accords?" "Oh yes," Sarah smiled. "Let's make sure everything's properly documented for the historical records. We wouldn't want anyone claiming we didn't follow proper diplomatic protocols." High above, aboard the Viraxian assault carrier Dawn's Supremacy, Squadron Commander Vexlar was growing impatient. These humans were proving surprisingly stubborn for such a primitive species. They kept citing their meaningless treaties and requesting time for evacuation. "Enough," he declared, his crystalline form pulsing with irritation. "Begin the dismantling sequence. Let's show these primitives what real technology looks like." The first Viraxian energy beam struck the colony's main dome and passed straight through it. "Sir," his sensor officer's voice wavered, "I'm getting some strange readings. The colony, it's flickering." Vexlar leaned forward just in time to see the holographic facade of New Eden Colony dissolve, revealing what lay beneath. Gone were the fragile dome structures and exposed infrastructure. In their place stood kilometers of gleaming quantum-hardened alloys and weapon emplacements that made his ship's armament look like children's toys. In her real command center, buried deep beneath the colony's surface, Sarah Chen set down her coffee mug. "I believe that's enough evidence of their hostile intent," she said calmly. "Initiate Defense Protocol Alpha, and someone get me Earth on the quantum line. They'll want to see this." The first sign that the Viraxians had made a terrible mistake was when their shields failed. Not through any visible attack. They simply stopped working, as if the underlying laws of physics had politely decided to step out for a moment. "Impossible," Vexlar whispered, watching his ship's most basic systems shut down one by one. Their technology, they couldn't have hidden. Actually, Sarah's voice came through their suddenly active communications system. "You'd be amazed what you can hide under a good hologram. By the way, your biomechanical encryption. Fascinating stuff, but a bit primitive. Our quantum AI systems cracked it about 3 seconds after you entered orbit. Across the colony, massive ground-to-space weapon platforms emerged from their hiding places. They weren't the crude railguns the Viraxians had expected. These were quantum field projectors capable of tearing apart space-time itself. Here's what's going to happen, Sarah continued, her voice pleasant but firm. In about 30 seconds, your ships will completely lose power. Don't worry. Our containment fields will keep you from falling out of orbit. We're not monsters after all. Then, we're going to have a lovely chat about the benefits of peaceful diplomatic relations. On Earth, Elena Santos watched the tactical feeds from New Eden with satisfaction. The Viraxians' attack on their weakest colony was proceeding exactly as planned. Already, similar reports were coming in from other settlements, each one revealing the true extent of human technological achievement that had been hiding beneath carefully crafted illusions. Status report, Council Leader John requested, though the smile on his face suggested he already knew the answer. All colonies reporting successful defensive operations, Elena confirmed. The Viraxians attempted simultaneous attacks on 7 settlements. All enemy ships have been contained with minimal damage and no casualties on either side. Zhang nodded approvingly. And their main fleet, still holding position in Earth orbit, presumably waiting for news of their easy victories. Elena's quantum neural implants flashed with incoming data. Should I inform High Commander Nexus that his assault fleet has been captured by our primitive colonies? Not yet. Zhang's eyes twinkled. Let them discover it themselves. Sometimes the anticipation of bad news is more effective than the news itself. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, High Commander Nexus was about to learn a harsh lesson about appearances. His chief science officer, Valrine, burst onto the bridge, crystalline form flashing with panic patterns. High Commander, we've lost contact with all assault forces. The colonies, they're not what we thought they were. Before Nexus could respond, every screen on his bridge activated simultaneously, showing the same image, Sarah Chen's calm face, still holding her coffee mug. High Commander, she said pleasantly, I believe we should resume our diplomatic discussions, this time perhaps with a more accurate understanding of humanity's technological capabilities. In the depths of his crystalline form, Nexus felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. They had thought they were springing a trap on primitive humans. Instead, they had walked right into one. And he had a sinking feeling they hadn't seen even a fraction of humanity's true power yet. Titans unleashed. High Commander Nexus watched in horror as the holographic displays showed the truth about humanity's colonies. Each settlement had transformed from an apparently primitive outpost into a fortress that defied his understanding of physics. But worse was coming. High Commander, Valrine's voice shook as new data flooded their sensors. Something's happening near Jupiter. The gas giant's swirling clouds began to part, revealing what humanity had hidden within its storms. Ships emerged, not the crude chemical-powered vessels they'd shown the galaxy, but massive vessels that dwarfed even the Eternal Dominion. Their hulls seemed to bend light around them, wrapped in energy fields that made his scientist's crystalline form pulse with disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. They couldn't have hidden an entire fleet in there. Actually, Elena Santos's voice came through their communications system, now easily bypassing their best encryption. Jupiter's storms make an excellent hiding spot. The atmospheric interference masks quantum signatures quite nicely. Though I have to admit, maintaining the illusion of primitive technology all these years was getting a bit tiresome. The human fleet moved with impossible grace for its size, emerging from Jupiter's clouds in perfect formation. At their center was a vessel that made Nexus's command crystal pulse with primitive fear. It was easily 20 kilometers long, its hull covered in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Allow me to introduce the TN's Prometheus, Elena continued, almost cheerfully. Our first quantum dreadnought. Well, the first we're letting anyone see anyway. Those interesting patterns on its hull. Quantum field generators. They don't just bend space. They rewrite it. In her office beneath the Mariana Trench, Elena watched the Viraxians' reactions with satisfaction. Council leader Zhang stood beside her, his ancient eyes twinkling as humanity's greatest treasures were finally revealed. Perhaps, Zhang suggested, we should show them why the ancient races call us the World Forge. Elena nodded, sending the command through her neural implants. Above Earth, massive structures began to phase into visible space. Orbital rings and defense platforms that had been there all along, hidden behind quantum veils that made them literally undetectable. You see, Elena explained to the increasingly panicked Viraxian commander, humanity made a choice centuries ago. After our first brush with hostile aliens, we decided to hide our true nature. It seemed safer to appear primitive while we built up our strength. Those radio signals that attracted your attention, a carefully maintained facade. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, Nexus watched as his sensor officer's crystalline form began to crack from stress. Sir, the officer reported, their technology. It's beyond anything in our records. The energy readings from just one of their defense platforms exceed our entire fleet's output. Oh, those. Elena's voice carried a hint of amusement. Those are our older models. Would you like to see what we've been working on lately? Commander Chen, if you would. At New Eden Colony, Sarah Chen set down her coffee mug and pressed her palm against a quantum-locked console. The ground beneath the colony trembled as something vast began to rise from beneath the surface. The Viraxians watched in stunned silence as the Earth itself parted, revealing a machine that seemed to deny reality itself. It was a massive ring structure, covered in the same reality-bending patterns as the Prometheus. This, Sarah announced proudly, is a quantum forge. It doesn't just build ships, it prints them fully formed from quantum foam. Would you like a demonstration? Before Nexus could respond, the forge activated. Reality rippled as raw energy coalesced into matter, forming a perfect replica of a Viraxian cruiser in moments. We reverse-engineered your ship designs about 10 minutes after you arrived, Sarah explained, though we had to simplify them a bit to work with your level of technology. Your biomechanical systems are interesting, but they're a bit limited compared to quantum engineering. In orbit, the Prometheus moved closer to the Eternal Dominion, its massive form making the Viraxian flagship look like a toy. Elena's voice came through again, gentler now. High Commander, I want you to understand something. We could have destroyed your fleet the moment you arrived. We could have shut down your ships, teleported your crews into space, or simply erased you from existence. But that's not who we are. Zhang stepped forward, his ancient voice carrying the weight of centuries. Humanity chose peace not because we were weak, but because we were strong enough to know that power doesn't have to be used to be effective. Now, shall we discuss terms that don't involve subjugating our species? Nexus stared at the quantum dreadnought filling his view screen, at the orbital rings that could probably shred his fleet with a thought, at the colony that had just casually demonstrated the ability to create ships from nothing. His voice cracked, his crystalline form shifting to the deep blue of submission. I believe we should start our diplomatic discussions over, perhaps with a more accurate understanding of our relative positions. Excellent choice, Elena smiled. And don't worry too much about your assault fleets. They're quite safe, though I imagine they're having some very interesting conversations with our colonial governors right now. Throughout the Sol system, humanity's true face was finally revealed. The sleeping giant had awoken, and the galaxy would never be the same. The price of pride. The Imperial Palace on Virax Prime had never been so quiet. High Commander Nexus stood before the Crystalline Council, his form dim with shame as he explained humanity's true nature to his species leaders. Behind him, Elena Santos and Sarah Chen watched with carefully neutral expressions as the ruling council tried to process the magnitude of their civilization's mistake. Impossible. First Speaker Zixnar's crystalline form pulsed with denial. No species could have hidden such advancement. Our deep space sensors would have detected. Your sensors, Elena interrupted gently, can only detect what they're designed to detect. Quantum technology operates on principles your science hasn't discovered yet. We've been watching your civilization for decades, hiding in plain sight. To demonstrate, she pulled out what appeared to be a simple metal pendant and activated it. The Council Chamber's elaborate security systems, the pride of Viraxian technology, simply winked out of existence. "Don't worry," she assured the panicking guards. "Your systems are fine. We're just holding their quantum states in temporary suspension. A basic privacy measure, you understand." Sarah stepped forward, her colonial governor's uniform, now bearing insignia that made the Viraxians' most advanced computers struggle to process. "Let's be clear about the situation. Your fleet attacked what you thought were defenseless human colonies. Instead, you found our fortress worlds. The only reason your ships weren't atomized is because we chose restraint." In orbit above Virax Prime, the TNS Prometheus hung like a sword of Damocles, its quantum field generators casting impossible shadows across the planet's 3 moons. Smaller human vessels, each still larger than anything in the Viraxian fleet, maintained a protective cordon that was as much for the Viraxians' safety as their containment. "The question now," Elena continued, "is where we go from here. Humanity has revealed itself because you forced our hand, but we'd prefer not to maintain an adversarial relationship." On a quantum-secured channel, Council Leader Zhang's voice whispered in Elena's neural implants, "Offer them the package we discussed. Let's see if they can swallow their pride for the sake of their future." "We are prepared," Elena announced, "to offer the Viraxian Empire technological assistance. Controlled advancement under human supervision. A chance to join us in understanding the quantum nature of reality, rather than remaining limited to biomechanical enhancement." The council chamber erupted in a cascade of crystalline tones, the Viraxian equivalent of shocked whispers. First speaker Zixnar's form shifted through a range of colors before settling on a deep, thoughtful purple. "You would share your technology after we attempted to subjugate your species." Sarah smiled. "We believe in second chances, though there will be conditions. Your military will be temporarily decommissioned. All future ship construction will be jointly supervised, and you'll need to accept human quantum engineers as advisors in your major facilities." "And if we refuse?" a council member demanded. Elena's expression remained diplomatic, but her eyes hardened. "Then we leave, but we'll be watching. And if the Viraxian Empire ever again attempts to subjugate what they perceive as a weaker species," she let the sentence hang. High Commander Nexus stepped forward, his crystalline form assuming the deep blue of formal submission. "First speaker, members of the Council, I have seen humanity's true capabilities firsthand. What they offer is not subjugation, it's salvation. Our civilization has reached the limits of biomechanical enhancement. They offer us the stars themselves." In orbit, aboard the Prometheus, John watched the proceedings through quantum-entangled feeds. "They're processing it better than expected," he noted to his staff. "The Arcturian Empire took 3 days just to stop denying what they were seeing." "The Viraxians are adaptable," his aide observed. "Their entire civilization is based on self-modification. Perhaps that makes it easier for them to accept the need for change." Below, the crystalline council was reaching its decision. First speaker Zixnar rose, his form shifting to the formal patterns of official declaration. "The Viraxian Empire," he paused, his crystalline surface rippling, "accepts humanity's terms. We acknowledge our error in judgment and formally request admission to the Quantum Advancement Program." Elena nodded diplomatically, while her neural implants transmitted success codes to Earth. The Viraxians would join the growing list of species being carefully guided toward a greater understanding of reality. "There is one thing," Zixnar added, his form showing genuine curiosity. "The ancient warning glyphs we found in the Carina Nebula, about the ones who forge worlds. They were about your species, weren't they?" "Ah," Elena smiled. "Those. Yes, from our earlier civilization, before we moved to Earth. We try not to talk about the incident that necessitated that relocation." Though if you're interested in ancient history, the first speaker's form flickered with what might have been fear. Perhaps we should focus on the future instead. A wise choice, Sarah agreed, hiding her amusement. Some stories were better left untold, at least until their new allies were ready to understand them. A new understanding. 1 year after the failed invasion of Earth's colonies, the Viraxian shipyards presented a very different appearance. Where once crystalline vessels had grown through biological processes, now quantum forges hummed with possibilities that defied traditional physics. Human engineers worked alongside Viraxian specialists, teaching them to understand the deeper nature of reality. High Commander Nexus, now serving as the liaison between human quantum advisors and the Viraxian military, stood beside Elena Santos watching their first joint project take shape. The Quantum Forge's energy field contained what would become the first Viraxian human hybrid vessel, a ship that combined the best of both species' technologies. "It's beautiful," Nexus admitted, his crystalline form shifting through patterns of awe. "We thought we understood the universe, thought our biomechanical evolution made us superior. How blind we were." Elena smiled, her quantum neural implants analyzing the ship's formation. "The hardest part of being advanced isn't developing the technology," she said. "It's knowing when and how to use it. That's why we stayed hidden for so long." In the newly established Quantum Academy on Virax Prime, Sarah Chen was teaching a class of young Viraxians whose crystalline forms flickered with enthusiasm as they learned to manipulate quantum fields. Their natural ability to alter their physical structure made them surprisingly adept students. "Remember," she told them, "quantum engineering isn't about dominating reality. It's about understanding it deeply enough that it chooses to work with you. That's why humanity waited so long to reveal ourselves. We needed to be sure we were wise enough to handle our own power." Above them, the Tenance Prometheus had been joined by its Viraxian counterpart, the Crystal Dawn. The two massive ships represented more than just military power. They were symbols of a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. On Earth, Council Leader Zhang sat in his office beneath the Mariana Trench, reviewing reports from across human space. The revelation of humanity's true nature had sent shockwaves through galactic society. Other species were coming forward now, seeking diplomatic contact, eager to learn if they too could be taught the deeper mysteries of quantum science. "The Arcturians are requesting quantum engineering advisors," his aide reported. "The Centaurian Collective has offered full diplomatic recognition. Even the Proxima Conclave is reconsidering their isolation policies." Zhang nodded, his ancient eyes twinkling. "And the Viraxian integration, exceeding expectations. Their adaptive nature makes them ideal students. The first generation of quantum-enhanced crystal forms are already showing remarkable progress. In orbit around New Eden Colony, where the Viraxian Empire had first discovered their mistake, a memorial was being constructed, not to commemorate a victory in battle, but to mark the beginning of a new era of understanding." Elena and Nexus stood together at the dedication ceremony, watching as quantum fields wove reality into new patterns. The memorial took the form of an impossible crystal, simultaneously there and not there, its structure a harmony of human and Viraxian design. "You know," Nexus said thoughtfully, "there are still rumors among my people about your species' original home, about why you relocated to Earth." Elena's smile held secrets accumulated over centuries of human advancement. "There are some technologies, some discoveries, that require tremendous wisdom to handle properly. Let's just say that our first attempt at building a quantum civilization had some interesting results. The warning glyphs in the Carina Nebula are there for a very good reason," Elena finished. "But don't worry. We learned from that experience. It's why we're so careful about how we share our knowledge now." Sarah Chen joined them, carrying her ever-present coffee mug. "The students are asking about quantum forge technology," she reported. "I think they're ready to begin basic materialization theory." "Already?" Nexus' form brightened. "That took humanity decades to master. We had to figure it out ourselves. Elena reminded him. Your people have teachers. And speaking of teaching, she gestured to where the Prometheus and Crystal Dawn hung in orbit. I believe it's time for your first lesson in quantum ship design. We thought you might like to help design the next generation of hybrid vessels. Nexus's crystalline form pulsed with joy and anticipation. You trust us with such technology. After we try to conquer you. Trust must begin somewhere, Sarah said. Humanity spent centuries hiding our true nature because we feared how others would react to our power. But real strength isn't about having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's about knowing when not to use them, Elena continued. About choosing to help rather than dominate. About teaching rather than subjugating. The impossible crystal of the memorial caught the light of New Eden's binary stars, sending quantum-enhanced refractions across the colony. Each beam of light carried within it the promise of a future where advancement was tempered by wisdom, and power was balanced by understanding. Besides, Sarah added with a smile, someone needs to help us keep an eye on the galaxy. There are things out there that make quantum physics look simple. When they eventually show up, we'll need all the enlightened allies we can get. Nexus's form shifted to a questioning pattern, but Elena just smiled mysteriously. Some secrets, after all, were best revealed in their own time. For now, it was enough that humanity had found not just students, but partners in their journey to understand the deepest mysteries of existence. The dragons of Earth had awakened, but they had chosen to teach rather than burn, and in that choice lay the greatest power of all.